Stay tuned for today's episode of Breaking the Biz, an informative podcast where we dive into the world of entertainment by interviewing seasoned professionals who have made their mark in the industry. Gain invaluable insights as they share their personal journeys, offering advice on navigating the dynamic landscape of the entertainment industry. Whether you're an aspiring actor, musician, filmmaker, author, animator, or any creative soul, tune in for expert career guidance, insider tips, and first-hand accounts on breaking into the entertainment industry. Get ready to unlock the secrets behind successful careers and fuel your own passion for the limelight. Please remember to like this video and to subscribe to our channels for more great conversations.
Greetings from Breaking the Biz, brought to you by Yes I Can Unity Through Music and Education. I'm William Felber, your navigator through the intriguing universe of the entertainment industry, as revealed by the visionaries and creators who bring it to life. Stay tuned as we delve into diverse insights from the forefront of entertainment, hearing from pioneers, creators, and agents of change. Prepare for a journey filled with tales of innovation, resilience, and the undying quest for artistic brilliance.
Welcome to Breaking the Biz podcast. Got a great guest with us tonight. We have Sophia Sambo, who's an M.F.A, a writer, a producer, a director, and a Ph.D. student. She is currently working on her Ph.D. in Humanities and Culture with certifications in museum studies and creative writing. She's enjoyed the hard work that has gone into achieving her degrees, as it's furthered her artistic abilities and broadened her perspective. Each piece of academic work, she sees each piece of academic work as a sculpture or a script in which a narrative dialogue speaks a new and necessary message to the reader. Not only has she enjoyed these disciplines, but she's enjoyed teaching science, math, and athletics as well. Outside of academia, she competes in various running events and trains year-round. She's volunteered as a running coach, as a cook in the soup kitchen, for disaster relief in multiple countries, and from Hurricane Katrina relief. So definitely doing some good work there as well. Sophia, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me. How's everyone doing?
Everyone's doing good. It looks like we're making it through. I kind of want to start off with, when you were a young girl, what was the dream job for you?
Oh, my dream job. Just depends how little.
Start with the very little.
I think I wanted to be a cat and an architect for a little while, but I feel like I was always ending up learning a lot about writing, and I didn't really think that I would end up doing anything to do with writing, but one day I realized I needed to do writing so I could feel like I was more involved in a larger art project, I guess. So I feel like if I made film but didn't do any writing, and then it wouldn't really be, the piece wouldn't be fully mine, although all films have a lot of people involved in them. So it's always a collaborative project, but I feel like I'm painting the whole picture more if I do the writing, which I feel like creates a framework at least.
Okay. So you when do you realize that you want to become that writer? Is that something, and talk me through education, and, obviously you've got a lot of schooling under your belt. When did you realize that was going to be, the road you took?
Oh, well, there was a lot of writing in my early life and early adult life, and I felt like I was writing about people, but I hadn't really become a person in many ways. And so I started to study theater, and acting at a community college in Plano, Texas, and I enjoyed that. But I watched directors in class and in community theater for a few years, and I also ended up taking sculpture, and I didn't really know what it was when I signed up. And so I guess my way of relating those things and feeling like I was more in charge of the project would be to direct and write, which I wouldn't do for years later. And I've only done a little bit of that so far. I'm still very new to what I'm doing, and I think of myself as a beginner still. And because a lot of my experience in films I made were in during my M.F.A, and so they're smaller projects still. But I wanted to feel like I could have more control over this space and not make some of the mistakes that I saw other directors make. So when I do casting, I don't first think about how talented the person is. I think about how well will they work with me, how good are their manners, and how well will they work with others. And my first project that really had, I don't know, I guess I would say a medium-sized cast, or maybe even small. I mean, there's a group of people, but all those people worked really well with each other. They still really like each other. I'm pretty sure they still hang out with each other. I don't remember there ever being a fight between anyone on set that was in crew or actors. No, they just loved being with each other. They smile when they see each other, and that didn't happen when I was taking my community college courses or doing community theater in community college. That was never how it was. Everybody was always stepping on each other's toes, including the directors and stuff. So I feel like that I took that experience and made a utopian environment in a film about a dystopian environment.
Talk me through the movie. What's it about, and tell me the storyline and what inspired it.
Let's see. Part of what inspired The Yellow Shoes, which is my biggest but still small project that I have worked on and should release soon, is about a commune of kind of like a hippie commune in the woods, but set in the present day. And they're starting off, and some people are more critically conscious, or they're thinking about how they're affecting others, and that not to take everything at face value, not to just believe everything they hear from someone else. And so they're aware of what's going on. They know what they're thinking critically about what they're being told, and then other characters don't, and they just so they come up with these. Let me see. I need to start that sentence over. One character is jealous of another character because if she thinks this character is doing things that she's not doing, she thinks she's interested in her love interest and somebody she was previously with, but that character is just being viewed from this perspective that makes it seem like if she goes in a tent and back out of a tent at a certain time, or it's really just this jealous character's internal insecurities that she's projecting on the other character, and she's seeing the things that she's worried about, even though they're not really happening. You never know if they're really happening in the film, and and then she tells these other characters, and they some of them believe her, and then the ones that are question what she's telling them don't, and then that creates the conflict of the film and ends up leading to the group sending her into exile, and the character that this jealous character was worried about ends up leaving with her because of they are fed up with the group and how they're not really questioning things. They're just kind of, it's kind of like bullying. They're just kind of like making up things about someone, and then there's like this mob mentality they have, and I just want people to see things from different character perspectives and question what they think and what they decide about somebody more, so that we can treat each other better. But also,
I love how you mentioned it as like a dystopian, film, and it sounds kind of like a, I don't know if I would say a psychological thriller, but definitely getting into the characters and understanding point of view and perspective, and it sounds awesome. What made you want to write this story? Did something impact you? Was it those days in college, in the community college, in the theater? What was it that, you just needed to tell this story?
I had some experiences that happened over a much shorter time that were a much smaller deal. And some of those experiences influenced it. And I think I've also seen similar things happen to other people. I remember there was one small event that happened when I was studying sculpture. It just lasted like an hour or so, but just because one person said something, then other people went on that, and then they all got angry, and then they said, and this person thinks this, and this person feels that way, and then it just sort of blew up, and one of my friends just told me, just, don't worry, that's their problem. You've been just sitting here, and nothing that they're saying actually happened. You can just watch it, like you could almost watch it like it was a play, really, in this small space. All these people come up with something out of nothing, but no one questioned it. They didn't ask, did you actually do this, or did this happen, or did you actually say this, or something. They just went along with it, adding this context to things that really didn't happen, and it was just over in that day. I think most of us still were friends with each other later and stuff, but just not questioning little things can just sort of blow up, and it's only supposed to be in 30 to 40 minutes, so it's not like the hugest conflict for the film. But I mean, if you are exiled, I guess it's maybe the appropriate size conflict there.
It's interesting because sometimes we have conflict and it's a lack of communication, or not even just taking the initiative to search for what's really going on. Or we talk about empathy in this class, and sometimes people are not even empathetic to put themselves in someone else's shoes to understand maybe what they're going through, or what they're feeling, or what they're saying. So definitely resonates. Talk to me about some of the key factors that influenced your career choices during your early years.
Let's see. I guess I was very artistic as a child. I don't know, my dad and my mother both were very artistic in their own ways, but I grew up in a very rigorous academic environment, so I think I needed to give that a little more balance, and then I don't know. I guess I've always been drawn to color and self-expression. My mother studied fashion and textiles, and my dad studied um, art. I don't know if it was more specific than that, but he did a lot of painting and some sculpture. And so I was around that in the Northwest, um, and would meet other people who were their friends who were involved in those things. Uh, I'm very attracted to color. I think about color in almost everything that I do. So that's why I try to include like surrealist um, elements in my short film. Um, I try to get a certain color scheme of brightly colored tents, and have some of my main characters wear clothing based on the scene, and their how their like my lead character wore red sometimes because it's sort of an alerting, threatening color, and then but she also wore yellow, which is not as threatening, and it's a comforting sort of homely color, at least in some psychological perspectives. Yellow makes you feel comforted, and it's kind of like a color people sometimes paint their kitchen or something. Um, and I've painted a dining area yellow for that reason. And so I don't want the colors to, um, affect the mood of the film or how you would see that character in contrast to the other characters. And whether or not anyone notices that doesn't necessarily change that will still affect them viewing it while they're viewing it and how they'll think of it. But it also sort of gives I'm trying to think of the word, the it's not a framework or a cookie cutter, but certain filmmakers use like a certain shape or color concept to tie everything together. Um, there's one filmmaker, everything there's clocks, and I don't know. I think they ever talk about the clocks too much or time that much, but there's round shapes and clocks. It gives it. It just kind of ties it all in.
When you're talking, you make me think of Night Shyamalan, the movie. I can't think of the name of the movie, but it's got Samuel L. Jackson and is it not Is it Unbreakable?
Unbreakable, yeah.
Yeah, I knew my crew would back me up on that.
Yeah,
but
it's Unbreakable.
I was thinking about that, and like obviously Samuel L. Jackson wears the purple as the villain, and I can't remember what Bruce Willis, the color he wears. Anyone want to chime in what color he wears?
Green.
But the colors, you start paying attention to the colors. Presley, did you want to make a comment? See your hand.
And actually too, I want to bring up if you watch Shyamalan's sequel to it, Glass, Samuel Jackson's character's color is purple. Bruce Willis's character, his color is green. And then you have James McAvoy's character who has the color of yellow. Because what I like about this movie that each background where the characters are, they have a different color theme into it.
I never noticed the other colors in the, like, obviously I see what they wear that way, but now it makes me want to go back and watch it.
Sorry to chime in. Yeah.
Go for it, Malik.
I noticed that too. And there's this website called TV Tropes, and that's called a color motif. that like tells us, you can tell a
Sophia's
lot about
going,
the
that's the word I
characters,
was looking for.
about, you could tell us all about the characters, about what color they wear and how they wear it.
Interesting. So definitely there's people who pay attention to that. I love it. So with this movie, what is your plan? Is it entering it into film festivals? Is it something that you're looking to push and market and sell elsewhere? I can definitely get the understanding you like to have your hands on all elements of control and your vision. What's the plan?
I'm going to enter it in festivals. I also know it was called Evergreen, but they changed their name. It's like kind of like an independent film streaming service or something. I met this group at a film conference, and they said they're changing their name, um, but just so that it's out there beyond festivals, or there's some way to access it online. I guess this project is partly a jumping off point to maybe expand the project, or to make bigger projects, or just to make other projects, to be bigger than a 5-minute short, but slightly less expensive than a full-length film.
I got it. Yeah, we know how that can be. Um, Talk to me about how important networking has been in your success. You're talking to a group of individuals who do not like to network, feel that social anxiety with networking. But every guest speaker that we have had has always talked about networking is the key to your success. They talk about your net worth is your network. There's all these little mantras. How successful or how important has networking been in your success?
Well, I am a beginner, so I don't really feel like I have used my networking as much as I plan to use it and would like to. But in networking that I have done, and all the people that I have worked with as a student and in this project, it's, I don't know, that it's just work, listening and to other people's ideas, and working collaboratively. I let my actors and my crew give me, share their ideas, and sometimes they have better ideas. My assistant director and lead actress, who is actually is autistic, give me a lot of ideas just on the spot, and that would make things better. I think if you just only rely on yourself, that's and if it's just too much about you and your ideas, then people don't want to work with you. And I've heard that after this project, after we filmed, they worked with other people, and they're so very strict and brittle, and they don't really think about others enough, and how they, I don't know, don't want to work on projects like that again. So I guess that would be bad networking. I think you have to be willing to do anything. So on my set, I plunged the toilets when they clogged, and I made sure that if somebody needed something gluten-free, we would have that. I feel like you can make films with little money if you find the right group of people to do it with, but you have to always make sure you take care of their needs and feed them. It's like the bare minimum thing that you have to do, and not just treat everybody like their service is free. And when they want to, even if it is, just don't ever act like it. And I've heard bad stories, many bad stories, and where people don't do those things. And then I don't know. I feel like people wouldn't want to work with those people in the future. I'm always told that it's if you get a bad rap in a short amount of time, and then people just will not want to work with you. And I've also heard that a lot of people, if they work on your project, you want to work on theirs in another role. And it's very important to know as many roles as you can, which will keep you working. And I've heard from people who work year round in Washington that they have to work in all these different roles if they only want to work in film. So they might do gaffing or sound, or do they switch roles so that they can, and switch the scale of how they're paid, even because of Washington's very limited.
It's definitely not Hollywood where you got a movie or a project, everyone's doing something. And I love how you mentioned that too, right? I just heard somebody talking about you don't always necessarily hire for skills, you hire for attitude, and skills can be taught later. I don't know if that necessarily applies so much to movie making. Obviously, you want people who are skilled in certain areas, but it is true that nobody really wants to work with a jerk. Everyone wants to work with someone who is positive and someone who's going to listen. We talked about that communication. Listening is such an important element of communication. And when you do have a good rap and it is a positive experience, you're absolutely right. When someone else has the next project, they can bring you in and work on that project as well. And that keeps you, and like you mentioned, if it's sound, if it's filming, if it's, doing whatever it is on the set in order to make sure that you are working constantly. Because it is a gig economy where you're going to be moving, once the film is done, it's done, and you want to be able to work on something else. So that's very important. I wanted to ask you, how do you continually develop your skills and enhance your skills, if it's writing, directing, filmmaking, etc.?
I wouldn't feel that I would have grown and learned the skills I need to be involved in film in any way if I didn't do this degree. Even though I had written, I feel like I had more like written about film, and I did some analysis, but I didn't really have the you need feedback from others, and especially with writing, you need to read your scripts with other people, and you need to consider everything that everyone has to say in your feedback. And my last screenwriting teacher believed that was there's a method or to that style of screenwriting, and she believes that it's the best way to improve your scripts. It sounds really simple, but I mean, you're not. It's hard to grow if you're by yourself. So I don't really think if I hadn't studied, then I wouldn't have felt confident or like I knew what I was doing. And I think I'd have probably really bland stories that didn't have a plan for beats or the hero's journey, which not all scripts have to have these beats or these themes, but it's important to know about them so that you know how to round out your story. I really like, I don't know, collaborative art. I think in any subject, even outside of film, in my PhD program, I think if you're not learning from other writers and from your feedback and from other students, you're not really developing there either.
That constructive criticism is vital.
Yes, constructive criticism was my favorite part of studying sculpture. We just call it crit, and we would meet I think it was every Thursday or every other Thursday, but I fully enjoy giving that feedback and getting that feedback. I dressed up for it. It was exciting.
It's kind of that point where you can grow. We talk about growth mindset in our program and how important it is to fail at least a few times to figure out exactly the right road, the right way to do things. And if you don't fail, you never really learn and grow. So, did you want to speak on that?
Sure, I will tell you about some of my problems. In sculpture, I had some of my pieces. Many of my pieces broke, and then I had to solve that problem of them being broken in half or missing pieces, and that actually made them so much better visually than if they hadn't broken. It was the solution that really made that piece work. And in film, I think it's also that everybody has problems on set. And there was no problems on my set just because of people got along really well. We did have 2 leads disappear, which was, and one quit, and then just 3 leads disappear. One basically ghosted, and then the others just I don't know. I didn't get an explanation on why our male lead left and our female lead left because of, I guess, somebody quit at work or something like that. And so in a very short amount of time, I used or I called extras that and very 2 lines and who I thought could fit these roles. And they took them on, and they learned these roles really well and really quickly, and or they wouldn't be a film, and that was really amazing. There's also problems we had. I had a permit to film in a fairly small section of a public park. And as a student, most of the time you can get a permit for very cheap or free. I didn't have to pay for any permits as a student. And I guess the Parks Department, separate from the Shoreline Film Department, gave someone a permit to just go anywhere in all of the parks in Shoreline. And so that created some conflict there. And then there'll be people who will just walk across and around your set, especially if it's outside. I guess if you're inside, it's less likely to happen. But there could always be sound from construction next door. And, solving these problems and being patient with people and finding these solutions is how I guess is how you get through it.
I love that example because we talk about critical thinking, problem solving, communication, collaboration, understanding personality styles, the self-awareness, being resilient. And what you're talking about and what I'm gathering from writing, directing, and producing, you have to have all of those skills in a nutshell and be able to pull them out when it's needed, to understand the different type of people and Not everybody is the same when you're casting them, and there's different, personalities, and being able to solve those problems and being able to deal with permits and so forth. So, yeah, it just kind of shows how well-rounded you have to be. What was the biggest lesson? Are you still doing your PhD program, or did you finish your PhD program?
I actually had to switch in January. So I go to Saybrook, which is rooted in Pasadena, because of my previous university closed for they committed some high crimes, and it was very shocking, and it has actually caused some delays in my
PhD program.
film. Well, yeah, in my PhD program, but just the effects of it have affected my life a lot in 2023, and I feel like just in this past couple of months, I've finally been able to really get past how unexpected all of those things were. So I'm studying transformative social change now, and I'm very grateful that Saybrook basically invited me and other students from Union to go there. I feel like I forgot your question.
No, it's all good. I want to talk about mentorship. Is there a certain mentor that comes to mind? You mentioned both of your parents obviously being very art minded. Other than your parents, is there someone that comes to mind as a mentor, and how important has he or she been in your life?
It's difficult. I feel like I was given a lot of direction by many of my sculpture instructors, and some direction in film. More in screenwriting than at least most recently. Getting the feedback and reassurance from others, and I guess gave me the confidence that I could write a story that somebody might want to listen to. I don't know.
What advice would you give to, you have some aspiring screenwriters here with us tonight? What advice would you give to a young individual that wants to get into that field of screenwriting, being a storyteller, and sharing their story with the masses?
On your last question, I will add, my mother is very supportive. She was actually at my set every day, but also I guess she would be one of the production assistants, but she's very supportive in other ways. For screenwriting, let's see. I don't know how much you know about screenwriting. But the first things I learned about screenwriting is that there's the format that you must follow, and then different ways people do writing exercises, and different tools for writing scripts. And then, so I don't know, sometimes it's good to just write what pops into your head for 3 or 5 minutes, and all of those ideas. Or sometimes I just try to think about the things that I most care about, that I think that I need, or that also that people who are viewers, what are they the most interested in? And then how will that be something new? How will that bring something new to the table that will not just, you don't want to make something it's exactly like somebody else's project. What new things do you have to say? Or what, even if they're not, don't seem like the most original ideas, what things that are unique to your experience could you share with somebody else? And then I don't know, there's always has to be some sort of conflict in a story, and you can change everything else, but I think if there's not, you have to have an important conflict and a cause for that conflict, and then each character has to have their own motivations as to why they're doing different things, so that it makes sense. And the audience doesn't have to know why all these motivations. It's just that you have to know all these motivations. And I say that because I remember hearing people talk about their scripts, but they didn't necessarily know the conflicts. And some of the scripts that I've listened to, I couldn't get a real reason from my classmates on why this character was murdering people. And so, and everyone really likes the script, but I just feel like, but if somebody's going to produce it, they're just going to want to know, how did this character end up becoming this murderous character? And if there isn't this, if it can't just be their day job, they had to have something happen to them so that they end up doing this messed up thing, for this continuous plot to make sense. But
This is a great example. I mean, I don't think anyone's just, maybe they are, maybe they're not, but I don't think anyone's just born a murderer. There's definitely, like you mentioned, things that come into their life and things that affected them to make somebody, kind of go that route.
Well, unless you're Mike Myers.
Well, yes, but I'm sure Michael Myers had some motive.
Well, if I recall correctly, it was always implied he was born that way, but
was he born that way or was he bullied?
Well, he killed it. If I remember, I know the story. If I recall correctly, he just killed his sister, or tried to kill his sister randomly, or he killed someone randomly as a kid, and then from that day on, he's described as inhuman, but I don't know if it was ever established why.
Interesting. I think about like a Freddy Krueger, and obviously, there's a storyline with what he did, and then all of the, families judging him. What was that?
They could probably grow up in an abusive household and become their own, decide to kill their abuser, and however, because of the pain and abuse they had endured, they become the very thing they have suffered alongside it. Or not, at least, of course, that's only acquired to those to most serial killers. But for serial killers like Dexter Morgan, it's probably because, or it could be the case where the case of Dexter Morton, where he kills other serial killers because there are those that can't be redeemed by humankind alone, and there are some people that are too dangerous to be alive.
It's a very good point. And it kind of comes back to what Sophia's talking about. There has to be some inner conflict for a story to catch and for an audience. Otherwise, the audience is left there going, but why did they do that? Why would they become...
I brought up Mike Myers because Mike Myers does seem to be the exception. I mean, he's the only one of the of those classic slashers who I think that's the case for, but because that movie gets away more on just the atmosphere of it. But
Interesting.
Josh, I kind of lost it. Like, are you saying about Mike Myers, the actor? Like, I
no, the
lost my mind.
Halloween,
Like
the character
what?
from Halloween.
I know, I know. I was like, wait a minute, Mike Myers would never do that.
No,
You're thinking
no,
Austin
but
Powers.
because if I
You're thinking
recall, they
Austin
never
Powers
gave
being the
him
killer.
Yeah, Shrek.
because
All
if I recall,
yeah.
they never gave him a backstory beyond he killed someone at a party, and from that day on, everyone just looked at him as being pure evil.
Sophie, you're going to have to go back to the PhD program and talk about Michael Myers being the only killer out there where there is no inner conflict, and analyze that. But
I
thank you
do,
for thank you for pointing that out, Josh.
I do think he has kind of a simple backstory. I did watch, well, I don't know about the last couple, but I did watch all of the other ones, mostly as a kid though. But I do think Dexter Morgan also has a very simple backstory. But they do have, I think they both have backstories. They're not necessarily the most elaborate, and they're not maybe not really brought up throughout the film a lot, but they have something in there. Like Dexter was born in blood, and then I think they just leave it at that. And but I feel like they could have been a little more childhood backstory. But they do show him talking to his dad when he was alive, or I don't know. They show his dad or something, training him to channel it in a different direction. Um, but then there's also characters who I think need they need more to be more fleshed out or detailed. That in this one sitcom I remember listening to for many hours, the individual characters, I don't really know what their individual personalities are like. I don't know what their career wants are. I don't know what foods they like. And it's a sitcom, but they still need to have like a character and an attitude that's really strong, especially in a sitcom. They need to be like, I really don't like grapes. And you know, and you can go really far with simple things like that, but they just need to have a stance of some sort. And it could just be like, I just really don't like the lady who walks her dog in front of my house and it barks every time or something. But they just have to have these things that make them them. And it doesn't always have to be big. It could just be like, you know, we can't eat donuts today because there was a donut recall, and now we have to go around saving everyone who is trying to eat donuts, and that's what we're doing today. And you can watch these crazy people try to save the world from the recall of donuts, but they just but but there's got to have these motivations, and then and you know, these characters have to also have like their individuality, just like you do. And not every detail has to always be on display, but if they just have like your almost like a little separate profile, and then you can write them almost like they're a baseball card. And then, you know, as you're writing this story, remember to include elements, you know, this this one doesn't like school, and this one um, doesn't like showers or something. I don't know, but
I love it. I
anyway.
want to ask you, and then I'm going to open it up for the last few minutes for questions from the crew. Um, what is the biggest piece of advice you would give to your younger self from what you have learned in, you know, your PhD program, what you've learned in college, what you've learned with sculpture and art, what you have learned from two parents being artistic, what you have learned through life? What would be the biggest piece of advice you would give to a younger Sophia?
Um, maybe not to doubt yourself. And I think I really viewed people in high school and in my early adult years. I think I viewed people as just having like they're just being smarter than me or having having stronger abilities than me. And just I think I made myself. This was I think part of growing up in a really rigorous academic environment in Washington, but also I just chose to respond by letting myself think that I wasn't as good at things as I could be, or in some way limiting my opportunity. But then I'm also going to give you advice that I got from a guest speaker, is that when you stop working on plan A and you start working on your plan B, then, well, if you start working too much on your plan B, then you're going to stop working on your plan A, and then everything you're doing is going to take away from your plan A. And I don't mean to not take, like this guest speaker said, he just lived in his car with his family because he really had to work on plan A. And I think that's pretty dramatic. But I think it's best to like avoid doing too much plan B stuff while still making sure you're taking care of yourself at the same time. Like I can't not provide normal living conditions, and I wouldn't have my daughter live in a car, but I do think there's a lot of truth to that, and I think about that because because I feel like a lot of people spend time doing something that feels really secure in plan B, but then that it does really limit your growth in the area you want to grow in. So you have to always make sure you're doing that. And I remember hearing from another guest speaker that he put off things. He reminded himself to do things, but he spent years leaving sticky notes for himself that he was going to do the things he wanted to do in life. But you have to work on those things regularly. You can't put them off, and you won't feel good, and then years will go by. So I think you have to manage yourself in that way, and I think I don't know, that's a big part of being successful, or at least doing what you want to do. So
I love it. Beautiful. I'm going to go to Daniel Para and then to Presley. I see those two hands.
Thank you. Like as a person that's aspiring to be like a screenwriter, like to make my own like shows and movies, what advice can you give me on that?
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
The question?
Yeah, sorry, I couldn't hear everything you said.
Okay, sure. Sure. Like as a person, as an aspiring like a person, screenwriter, like in the creative writing field, like that want to make my own shows and movies. What advice will you give me on like on being a screenwriter?
You really need the support of other screenwriters to collaborate with, even if you're just exchanging feedback, or maybe you work on one script together. I've been wanting to work on a script with at least one other person who's involved in the writing. I feel like that whole collaborative process really can balance things out, because there'll just be holes that they'll think of that you won't think of yourself. Study You can also study other scripts. I think studying the beats in Jaws was really important for me. I think there's a YouTube link that I could find that goes over all the beats in Jaws and how that fleshes that storyline out, and how almost all stories go by that framework. But I wouldn't want to limit anyone's story by saying it has to fit into a certain framework. But I do think it's important to learn from the hero's journey and then from other people.
Perfect. All right, Presley, you're up.
Yes, I have a question. I want to go back on your creation on your dystopian sci-fi movie that you're working on. Like, do you watch movies to get inspiration from?
I don't. Yes, and in a way, I don't think about watching film to get inspiration, but then it's sort of like a side effect. If I watch film, then I feel like then I think about things that work well in film, or why they made that film. These different social issues, or like I like PBS Masterpiece. They often bring up these different social issues, and then it inspires me to think about, well, which social issues in history haven't been displayed in film that aren't represented, or current social issues. And so I think about like the elements of why that film was necessary. And then I also think about different artistic tools, different ways they made something happen in a scene, and how you can use that in a completely different story, but something they did successful in that film, you can copy in the way that in your own story, you can do that successfully with that same technique.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. And last question of the night, Giovanni.
Okay. I have a couple, so I'm going to try to keep it short and sweet. My question is, when you mentioned about like trying to get your story into some variety of festivals, what is one of the website that you use to like try to get your story published? Like, for example, I use filmfreeway.com. What do you use?
Is there a website you use to submit for a film festival, Sophia?
Yes.
No, not yet. But they're in Washington. There's is it Washington Filmworks? It has a directory of all the film festivals in Washington State. It's also the same place you can apply for tax incentives. I think most states have. California has a lot more, and I would trying to get a directory of the states.
So it's based off of state. There's different states have different festivals, obviously.
Yeah. Let's see. I know some film festivals watch more of your film than other festivals when they screen the films that they let in. I know that SIF doesn't watch them for very long, and I know that from someone who works at SIF. So I think maybe 5 minutes at the most of each film that's submitted is watched, and that it's really important to get those in early. But I haven't using a website yet. In the near future, I will probably be doing.
Now, my last question is, like, besides screenplay, what else can you write? Like, for example, like a log line or a synopsis?
You will. I'm not sure what you're asking, but you would definitely need to be familiar with writing good log lines and a good synopsis. Just getting those key elements in the simplest form written down for the subject and the storyline of your film. A lot of my M.F.A was going over synopsises and log lines and different elements like that. I did email you. I wasn't sure if I would need any visual aids. Some homework from my M.F.A that has my log line and synopsis in it. I'm not sure. Did I answer your question?
I'm going to share that with Giovanni offline so he can get a good, clear example of what that should look like, and that will help him on his project. For time's sake, I know that you committed to an hour, and I want to be respectful of your time. I'm excited to see your movie come out. I'm excited to follow your career. You are one of those creators and artists that want to put a lot of thought behind what they're doing. And it's so nice and refreshing versus seeing another Beetlejuice movie or another part 2 of this and a sequel of that or the remake of this. And, there's so much lack.
Hollywood has relied too much on those.
Yes, there's a lack of creativity in Hollywood and beyond. So it's refreshing to have somebody who wants to create something original. So from all of us here at Yes I Can, we will continue to follow and support you. And I just want to thank you for sharing your career roadmap with us for this last hour. Thank you again.
Oh, thank you. I'm not too pressed for time if you wanted to ask anything else. And as a random note, and thank you for having, and random note is that I do recommend using Indiegogo over GoFundMe, and this because of it's my understanding Indiegogo, if you just raise a certain amount but don't meet your goal, you still get to keep all of that. And with the other fundraising sites that are a little more popular, then and that you don't get to keep it all if you don't make your goal. And
might be the most super important, valuable piece of information for those that are looking for a crowdsourcing for anything they do. You would hate to be like, hey, I'm trying to raise $1,000 and have $980 and them go, sorry, didn't hit your goal. We're taking that money. We're giving back that money. So very important.
And just a short sample of your crew and what you're doing and the style or color or theme or storyline of your film is what you would want to have with that. And then some people have it's kind of like a short electronic version or kind of like a website of different elements about their film and their plans and of what they're going to use funding for. But anyway, thank you. And I wish you all success. I'm actually going to move to Northern California and try to start making films there.
When you move to Northern California, keep us in mind because we would love to support and donate our time and be part of your crew.
All right. That would be great. Have a good
You
one.
got it. You got it. Have a great night.
As we conclude another enriching episode, we hope you found inspiration in the stories shared today. Let's take a moment to honor Yes I Can's role in bringing Breaking the Biz to life. Yes I Can's commitment to empowering young people with disabilities through education, advocacy, and mentorship shines brightly, paving paths of opportunity and dialogue. This podcast celebrates the organization's dedication to nurturing talent and facilitating impactful discussions. Breaking the Biz is more than a podcast. It's a part of Yes I Can's broader mission to amplify voices, dismantle barriers, and craft a world that's more inclusive and accessible for everyone. Each episode is a chapter in our shared narrative of progress, education, and empowerment, driven by the spirit of Yes I Can. Thank you for spending your time with us on Breaking the Biz. Continue to challenge the status quo and share stories that resonate. Until our paths cross again, let's keep transforming aspirations into achievements and infuse every endeavor with optimism. Here's to advancing the landscape of the entertainment industry, one episode at a time. I'm your host, William Felber. See you next time.